Hi, welcome back to the Just Project. Project I'm making today, as you probably read in the title, is called a Faker Shaker, and that's because it's just a simpler version of the shaker card with a clear envelope around it to fit the sequins in instead of having to create the hole and line the hole with the foam, which is a little more nitpicky. So what I'm using is a regular card base, 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4.25. And then I've got the white layer, which is 4 by 5.25. And that can be stamped on as a background. I'm going to use this vellum with a design on it as a lot of my background, and that's just a little bit smaller at 3.75 by 5. And I stick it on there with some of the clear glue dots behind some of the leaves pictured on there so that I can hide them mostly. And that's going to go inside the clear envelope. These ones in particular I got from Stampin' Up, and you can just adjust the size a little bit to make it fit properly. So I'm just putting some creases in it. Now you want a little tiny bit of room available so that you can shake the sequins once they're in there. I think I made mine a little bit too tight, but it works. So then you put in basically what you want. Then you can seal that up. I'm going to use some extra tear tape to seal that down so it's a little bit more secure. Then once all that is sealed up, just make sure that I can move the sequins around a little bit. And I'm going to be able to add that to my card now. Unless I have other things like ribbon and stuff to add, then I want to wait until all that's added before I put that on the card. So then I have some decorations for the front to add. I've got a piece of glimmery vellum. I've got a little die cut and stamped set of leaves. I stamped a greeting on a circle, and I have a slightly bigger scallop circle to mount that on. What I'm using here doesn't need to be wrapped around the back of the card, so it's okay to not attach this part. But if you finish decorating it before you attach it to your card base, then you're sure that you don't need to add anything else to it or change anything. It's easier than taking that extra step to have to do that. These glue dots are a little bit harder to hide on this glimmer vellum because it doesn't have a print on it. So just try to minimize the amount and put them in places where they're going to be a little less visible, a little less obvious. Oh yeah, so I did come in with some ribbon that I will want to have wrapped around the card onto the back, so I'll make some sticky points because I'm not wrapping it all the way around the card to tie a bow. I'm just wrapping a flat piece around and then adding a bow after. So I want some stickiness on the back to attach the ends to. Make sure it's where I want it to be across the front, and then wrap and stick. Decided to pull that out and move it a bit because it wasn't very visible. Still, the background's probably a little bit too busy and it's not very visible, but that's okay. So now I'm going to add some extra tape to stick that down to my card base, and then I will pop up the greeting on the front. So I didn't want to have to stick that to the base while I had other stuff popped up on the front, just so I didn't accidentally bend it or something. You see, I find it's a little bit too tight. I wrapped it a little bit too tight because the sequins were slightly hard to move around in there. So I got my foam dots for the back of my greeting. I might have preferred if I didn't use the purpley vellum there. I might have preferred something a little bit more solid, but I still like it. And then I can just add the bow on the front, and it looks like it's been tied all the way around, mostly. And I can just adjust that, trim the edges so they don't hang off. And that's pretty much it. So I hope you enjoyed this card. I've got a picture coming up of a stamp set that I used called Botanical Layers because I forgot to show that at the beginning. I'm just going to add a couple more sequins to the front to decorate, embellish the outside. Add a little bit more interest on the front. And I have one other picture as well of the same card I did in a different color. So I hope you'll join me again sometime when you like this card. Bye for now.